They can ignore your words, but they can never ignore the power of silent discipline. Most people complain, react, and wait, and that's exactly why they stay stuck. While those who think with ownership thinking move forward. Every time, if you stay, I'll show you how value creation, even in silence, can turn frustration into freedom and obstacles into real power. Because success isn't built in the spotlight, it's built quietly in the discipline no one sees. And once you master this mindset, nothing, not failure, not rejection, not delay, can break you. So if you're ready to stop drifting and start leading yourself, stay with me. And if you want more Stoic lessons like this, join our community and let's rise together. Chapter 1. Stop complaining. Start creating value. Have you ever caught yourself whispering in frustration, "Why is this happening to me?" Or maybe sighing, "If only things were different." We've all been there. I've been there. But here's the truth I want you to carry today. Complaining doesn't move your life forward. Action does. And I don't mean massive, heroic, world-shaking action. I mean that one small step you can take right now, even when it feels inconvenient, uncertain, or so small it seems pointless. The Stoics didn't waste time debating why life was unfair. They knew it was. Instead, they leaned into a radical truth Marcus Aurelius captured perfectly. The obstacle is the way. What blocks you might actually be showing you where to begin. You can't control the economy. You can't rewrite your past. You can't control your boss or your partner or strangers on the street. But you can control one thing: how you respond. Take Drew Houston, for example. One morning, he forgot his USB drive. Every important file he needed was on it. He sat on the bus, unable to work, stuck in that helpless silence. Most of us, myself included, would mutter, "Why am I always like this? Why can't things just be easier?" But Drew didn't. Instead, he asked a different question. What if I never had to carry a USB again? That single thought sparked Dropbox, a simple idea that now touches hundreds of millions of people worldwide. It wasn't the mistake that changed his life. It was his response. Complaining feels seductive. It feels like relief, like a sigh escaping from your chest. But in reality, it's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It feels like it should help, but the more you drink, the worse it gets. Because every complaint is practice. You're rehearsing helplessness. You're trading energy for noise. But every small action, sending one email, writing one paragraph, cleaning one corner, is rehearsal too. You're rehearsing agency. You're proving to yourself, I can create. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means refusing to let them become your identity. Yes, acknowledge your pain, your fatigue, your frustration, but don't pitch a tent there. Don't make it your home. Complaining is a habit, and like all habits, it can be rewired. Here's one practice I use. The moment I catch myself about to complain, I pause, and I ask, what's one small thing I can do right now, within my control? Let's make it practical. You're stuck in traffic, you're late, your chest tightens with frustration. You could curse the red light, you could blame the city, or you could turn on an audiobook. Practice deep breathing. Use those stolen minutes as a quiet reset before a stressful day. The traffic won't change, but you will. And that's where real progress begins. Inside. The Stoics called this your internal architecture. The belief that your inner world shapes your outer experience. They weren't naive. They didn't expect comfort. They demanded agency over their choices, their attitudes, their voice. And here's the fascinating part. Modern psychology agrees. Research on the locus of control shows that people who believe they can influence their outcomes, even in small ways, are more resilient, more productive, and more satisfied in life. So ask yourself, do I spend more time describing my problems or designing solutions? Do I vent more or create more? This isn't to shame you. It's to wake you up, because you're not powerless, even when things are hard, even when no one shows up to help, even when life feels unfair. You still hold the ability to act, not because it's easy, but because it's who you want to become. And here's the wild part. Once you start creating value, people notice. Your energy shifts. Your language shifts. You stop asking why me and start asking what now. And in that moment, You become someone others want to follow, not because of luck, but because you've learned the first art of leadership, leading yourself. Let's go deeper. Every complaint hides a wish. I hate my job often hides. I want meaningful work. No one listens to me might hide. I want respect. So, instead of stopping at the complaint, translate the wish, and then act on it. Want more meaning? Take a course, start a side project, offer help to someone on your team. Want more respect? Show up with clarity, communicate better, practice empathy. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to start somewhere. One of the most powerful tools I've ever used is what I call gratitude through action. Not just writing what I'm thankful for, but doing something with it. Thankful for your body? Move it. Thankful for your partner? Show them. Support them today. Thankful for your dream? Work on it even for 15 minutes. That's how you turn passive gratitude into active creation. Because you don't need more motivation. You need momentum, and momentum isn't built in your head. It's built in your behavior. So let me leave you with this. The people who transform their lives are not the ones who never complain. They're the ones who know when to stop and start building. So next time you feel the pull to vent endlessly, pause. Ask yourself, what's the smallest thing I can do right now that adds value? Then do it. Not because it's monumental, but because it's yours. That's where change begins. That's where power returns. And that is how you move forward, not in theory, but in practice. Chapter 2. Think like you already own the outcome. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, they just seem to move forward, no matter what happens, and then quietly asked yourself, why do they keep rising? Well, I feel stuck waiting for a chance. Here's a radical truth. They're not waiting. They've stopped asking for permission. They've stopped waiting for someone to hand them a green light. Instead, they think, move, and decide, as if the outcome already belongs to them. This isn't arrogance. It's ownership thinking, and it changes everything. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need validation to begin. You don't need a nod from the crowd to take your first step. Picture this, you're at your job. You've stayed late. You've worked harder, and still, no one notices. Your ideas are left unheard in meetings. At some point, a quiet question rises inside you. Why should I keep giving more if no one seems to care? Now flip that thought. Ask instead, what would happen if I acted like this job? This outcome, this moment, already belonged to me. That shift is where real power begins. Because the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing yourself, you move out of reaction mode and into creation mode. Here's what I've seen time and again. The most magnetic, trustworthy, respected people don't spend their energy asking, what do I get? They ask, what can I build? What can I solve? What can I own? And ownership doesn't mean overworking. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It means carrying yourself with quiet responsibility, cleaning up messes you didn't create, speaking up even when it's inconvenient, following through even when no one is watching. Because to them, it's not about being noticed. It's about staying aligned with who they are becoming. I once knew a man, let's call him James. He worked in customer support, not glamorous, not prestigious. People didn't expect innovation there. But James thought differently. He noticed the same problems customers kept calling about. Instead of complaining, he created a solution guide. Then, he redesigned part of the onboarding process, so those issues never happened in the first place. No one told him to do it. No one paid him extra. But 6 months later, he was promoted, not because he begged for it, but because he already acted like the result was his to own. That's what it means to think ahead of the reward. That's Stoic excellence in action. Epictetus once said, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Don't wait to be asked. Don't wait for applause. Just begin. Because ownership thinking isn't about perfection. It's about initiative. And here's the deeper truth. When you act like you already own the outcome, you don't just rise in other people's eyes. You rise in your own. You build self-respect. You remind yourself that you are not defined by circumstance, but by choice. That changes everything. It changes how you face challenges. Instead of saying, that's not my problem, you ask, how can I make this Better, instead of saying, "That's not my job," you declare, "This matters, so I'll lead." When you think like an owner, you stop pointing fingers. You start building bridges, and yes, it's not easy. It requires maturity. It requires emotional discipline. It requires caring, without always being thanked. But the payoff is massive, because people trust those who take responsibility. People rally behind those who lead quietly, without needing recognition. And results come to those who act like the future is theirs to shape, not to those who sit waiting for permission. Now, maybe you're thinking, "But I've done that. I stepped up, and still, I was overlooked." I hear you. And here's what I want you to know. Ownership is not a quick fix. It's a long game. You may not be rewarded right away, but you will become ready for bigger opportunities, ready for leadership, ready for moments that demand character, not just talent. Because what you're really building is not recognition, it's character. Not because someone asked you to, but because you chose to. So here's a practical challenge. Wherever you are right now, at work, at home, in life, ask yourself, if I already owned the result, what would I do differently today? Then do it. Even if it's small, even if no one notices, even if it doesn't feel fair. Because when you consistently act with that sense of ownership, you begin to lead yourself. And once you can do that, no one can take it away from you. You don't need to control everything. You just need to control your mindset and your motion. That's Stoic thinking at its core. You don't change the world overnight. You change your posture within it. And over time, the world adjusts to match your standard. So stop waiting. Stop seeking approval. Stop asking, "Is this my place?" It is. Own it. Act like it. Rise from it. That's what thinking like an owner truly means. That's how you stop being part of the problem and start becoming the reason things get better. Chapter 3. Success is built in silence. Picture this. It's early. The world is still asleep. The streets are quiet. The only sound is your own footsteps and maybe the hum of a coffee pot. You're tired. You're not sure if it matters, but you show up. Again, you do the thing. No applause, no recognition, no sign of progress. Just quiet effort. Repeated. Have you ever felt like that? You give your best, and still, nothing seems to move. You keep showing up, but it feels like the world doesn't notice. It's easy in those moments to believe you're failing. But here's what I want you to hold close today. Success is not a single moment. It's not fireworks. It's not the crowd cheering. Success is a direction. And it's built in silence, not in the spotlight. We live in a culture that worships highlights, promotions, milestones, perfect photos, viral moments, but real life, real mastery, real growth, it's rarely glamorous. It looks like this. Doing the right thing when no one is watching. Saying no to what's easy, so you can stay true to what matters. Repeating what works even when it's boring. Not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. I once heard the story of a writer named Tom, not famous, not published. Every morning, before work, he sat down. 500 words, rain or shine, no book deal, no deadline, no fans waiting, just a private promise to himself. 3 years went by. Nothing happened. But in the 4th year, something clicked. A short story was picked up, then a book, then another. Today, his books are read by millions. And when asked what made the difference, he said, "It wasn't the story, it was the habit. I had written enough bad pages to finally write a good one." Consistency compounds, effort expands, discipline builds identity. The Stoics knew this deeply. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up one day wise. He became wise because he journaled every day quietly, privately, not to impress, not to be remembered, but to remind himself of who he was trying to become. His greatness wasn't in the throne. It was in the reflection that no one else saw. That's the hidden truth. You wake up early to study, but the exam is still weeks away. You go to the gym, but your reflection hasn't changed. You pour hours into a side project, but it hasn't earned a cent. The temptation whispers, "Quit. What's the point?" But here's the point. Every invisible step is not wasted. It's stored, like water rising in a well, quiet, unseen. And one day, it breaks the surface. That surface moment, the breakthrough. The recognition is not what defines you. What defines you is that you kept digging when no one cared. Success isn't just delayed. It's often disguised. It shows up as boredom, as repetition, as the long stretch where applause never comes. That's the proving ground. That's where character is carved. Success, the kind that lasts, doesn't arrive with a bang. It grows quietly, through the patience of someone willing to stay invisible until they're undeniable. Ask any world-class performer, athlete, musician, thinker what the real secret was. They'll all say the same thing. It wasn't talent. It was tolerance. Tolerance for the long, unglamorous middle. Tolerance for showing up when motivation died. Tolerance for building when no one clapped. And slowly, that tolerance transforms into something else. Trust. Self-trust. Trust in the process. Trust that even when no one sees it yet, you are becoming someone who can no longer be ignored. So I want you to pause and ask yourself, what am I quietly building that deserves to continue? Maybe it's a habit. Maybe it's healing. Maybe it's a dream you've barely spoken out loud. Whatever it is, don't stop. Not just because results are invisible, but because invisible doesn't mean wasted. Here's the truth. Success isn't earned the moment the crowd claps. It's earned in the 1,000 quiet moments you could have quit, but didn't. And even if no one thanks you right now, one day, you will. You'll look back and realize every unseen effort laid the bricks beneath your feet. You didn't wait for the path, you built it. That's what real freedom looks like. That's what quiet power feels like. And that's why when the results finally arrive, they feel so deeply, completely yours. The Stoics remind us, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And that's exactly what this journey is about. Learning to think with ownership thinking, to walk with silent discipline, and to turn obstacles into value creation. Life isn't defined by what we complain about, but by what we choose to build. Not everyone will notice your quiet effort, but it's in those silent hours that unshakable strength is forged. So ask yourself, am I living with ownership or waiting for permission? Am I building value or rehearsing complaints? If today is one brick in the foundation of my future, how strong will I place it? And remember, you're not walking this path alone. We are a community of those who choose to live deliberately, not by accident, but with purpose. Because peace is power, silence is strength, living with purpose is freedom. If this message resonates with you, hit subscribe and join us. Together, let's not just study Stoicism, but truly live it.